Hi, Book 2. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I still don't have a TBR set, but I do have, but I wanted to kind of update you guys on my current reading status. I did start my reread of Song of Ice and Fire series, aka Game of Thrones, because I ended up buying these newer copies, because, like I said, I've been exchanging all my mass market copies for this regular size paperback, because I prefer these over mass market. And, which, by the way, I am actually excited about House of Dragons. I know that a lot of people, after the dumpster fire that was season 8 and the last few seasons before that, I did see some comments on the trailer video were saying that what happened with the show kind of ruined their excitement for House of Dragons. But you know what? It's not the same guys running it. And I'm always, up for giving something a second chance to win me over. And I'm not that hard to please anyway. And the trailer looked good. I say before you dismiss something, give it a watch, Granted, I know it wasn't until towards the end where Game of Thrones went bad, but they had books to work with. I guess they just weren't as good as I thought they were without the books. So, and just George R. R. Martin's outline. I know that people were saying, people did not approve of how things worked out for characters and stuff like that, but I think, to be fair, I think the biggest problem was that they rushed it because they were so eager to be done, which, yeah, they were committed. They had been working on it for a long time, and I understand, when you're in the business of Hollywood, you have all these ideas. It's just like with a writer, a novelist, you want to jump to the next you sometimes want to jump to the next project, and, with a TV show, you can't do 2 projects at once. It can be a bit too much. But I think they should have, had stuck to 10 episodes like they had been doing instead of just rushing the story. And I think, to me, that's just the biggest problem, is that they rushed it. So if they take their time with House of Dragon, then I think it could potentially be fine. Now, there's always a chance that they could mess up, but, I'm being open-minded about this. I'm not going to worry and panic just yet. I want to watch it and get into it first, and then if they let me, and they might let me down, but I'm not going to dismiss it just yet. So let's talk about what's been going on with my reread of the series. So we have the first book, and it is very weird because this is my 3rd time reading this book. I've only ever gone through the first book, and I've gotten through the second book once. And I have gotten halfway through the 3rd book, but I have never finished it. And it's not because because obviously I love the series. It's just, it's a long book. And I struggle with, I still cannot commit to a long book. It took me years before I finished Count of Monte Cristo. And what helped is I listened to an audiobook. But, I don't want to, it's not like, where it's free, like it is on Libby. I still have to, spend money to buy the audiobooks. So, I could, listen to an audiobook, but, I'm gonna, and plus, also with Count of Monte Cristo, it's a different writing style than these books. So it's quicker to get through them, even if this is my 3rd attempt reading it. But I want to make sure I don't do what I always do, which is put the book down and get distracted by other books and then never pick it up again for years. So I'm going to make sure I keep going with this book and keep my interest. But, that's what's happening with Way of Kings. I love the story so far. I've been loving the story. It's just all of a sudden I get distracted because it's even longer than this, Way of Kings. But, so the Starks have been separated, and have already been separated. Ned has taken the girls to King's Landing because, Sansa's betrothed to Joffrey, the little prick. And, Catelyn, is guidance for Robb as he tries to run Winterfell. and Bran can't go because he has an accident and he gets pushed off a tower by dumbass Jaime. He has a weird relationship with his sister. And then you have, and Rickon, of course, is 3, so he's staying at Winterfell as well. And then Jon has been sent to take the Black, which is what he wanted to do, but then, he wanted to choose to go, I think. It was more because and now he knows the reason he's being sent there is because they don't want him, Catelyn doesn't want him around. So, first off, I still don't like Robert Baratheon. I like the actor who played him in the show, Mark Addy, but I do not, and I think he did a great job with the character. But I did not like that character. So he's basically, you're married to a guy who's really sweet and a great guy, but then he has that one best friend that just gets on your nerves and is just such a bad example, a bad influence on your friend, on your husband. And you just don't want to be rude in that annoying wife that says he can't spend time with his friend because you know how important that relationship is. But then at the same time, you want him to go away. You don't want him to stay in your house. You want him to, and Robert is that friend. What's even worse though is he's the king, so they can't ever say no to them. In fact, when he comes to Ned and being like, I want you to be my hand, Ned is the one who wants to refuse, but Catelyn's like, no, you have to do this. And then when things get worse because they find out from Catelyn's sister that they suspect the Lannisters murdered her husband Jon Arryn, who was the first hand. And so he has to go and figure out what's going on and maybe stop the Lannisters. The problem is Ned is just too damn honorable. He's such a good guy, and he's not willing to play the game, as Cersei puts it. But Robert is just such a pig, and he's such a misogynistic. And yes, you could argue this is a medieval inspired world, so a lot of men are like that, which, yeah, a lot of the male characters are like that, but some of them are more likable than others. And there's one scene when they're out and, they're talking, and he's asking him about the woman who he believes is Jon Snow's mom, and talking to Ned about her and everything. And of course, Ned doesn't want to talk about it. Who can blame him? That was the past. And he feels guilty about it. Because, come to find out, he had slept with her when he was married to, I think he had just gotten married to Catelyn. And dumbass Robert's all like, a man doesn't, a woman doesn't want her husband to not have been with other women. And it's like, yeah, when they're not married, I'm sure it's nice when he's experienced, but if they're married, women don't take kindly. I don't think women would take kindly to being cheated on, which of course Catelyn can't do much about it, but still, I mean, that's why she takes out all her anger on Jon Snow, because that's the only person she can take out her anger on, even though it's not Jon's fault. And I feel bad for that kid, because it's not. He was just born. He can't help what happened with his biological parents. And, of course, we know the irony is that R plus L equals J. If you read all the books and watched the show, you know what that means. And so it's like, I feel bad that Jon is getting this bad, judged by Catelyn, and he didn't do anything. He's just a kid. And it just really sucks. I imagine it really sucks being a bastard in this world. And, he probably feels like the Black is his only option. Because at least he doesn't have to worry about, he doesn't have any personal connections with these people. And all the people there are rejects in their family, most likely. So sadly, he's better off at the Night's Watch. I'm curious why Benjen was there, though. What happened with him? Because he's also Ned's brother, I believe. So, which means Ned had 2 brothers and 1 sister. So they had 4 kids. So there were 4 Starks in that, in that generation, I think. I think Benjen was a Stark. But, Anyway, so yeah, I don't like Robert. Benjamin's okay. Ben Stark is okay. I don't have any strong feelings because we didn't get to spend a lot of time with him. But he's like a good guy and really cared about John. And now as for Sansa, I know a lot of people hate her, but my feelings on Sansa are very mixed. Yeah, when I'm reading it, there are things about her that I don't like, especially like how she treats Arya really bugs me. But with that being said, I kind of understand. She's an 11-year-old, even though she thinks she's more mature. She's still a child herself. That's what I want to tell her. It's like, no, you are not mature. You are not wise. You are a child. Of course, like I've said this before, that back in this type of world, in a lot of historical time periods, a lot of kids had to grow up really fast. And I feel so bad for those kids. And then they come up, are oftentimes can be messed up adults. Like, I have to make a comparison here. In Bridgerton, that's what happened to Anthony. He is forced to grow up because his dad unexpectedly dies. He he has a reaction to a bee sting, and he dies, and forcing Anthony as the oldest to take over as head of the family. And and poor kid, he has all these, and he's these issues where he's just, in the book, he's afraid of, I think I've heard that he's afraid of dying. And in the show, it's more specific to the fact that he doesn't want anyone to put anyone through that pain of losing their loved one. He doesn't want to be the cause of someone experiencing that pain. Which is ironic considering that I was watching a video where someone was reacting to these two guys were reacting to the last episode, and they pointed out the irony is that it's, Anthony is the one that's going through the pain. He's the one who's about to lose or it looks like he's about to lose is the woman he loves. So it's so that was kind of interesting. But anyway, we're not talking about Bridgerton. I just wanted to make a comparison because, like in Bridgerton, the kids, the Starks, Dany, and the Lannisters have to grow up really fast. And it's a really brutal reality they're facing, especially in this world. I mean, like, at least with the Regency bearing, it's not as bad. I mean, you still have to deal with being part of the Ton and everything, and, but this world is definitely more brutal than, the Regency England. And, these, like, so... And Sansa has been fed all these stories about princes and heroic knights and she sees the world as everything is, good guys are pretty people that are always honorable and do the right thing and are good and, just pure and good. And then the bad people are ugly and evil. And, she has this black and white mentality about the world. So she is led to believe that Joffrey is this handsome, kind, beautiful prince, and learns in the most brutal way possible that he's an ass. And she can do better. And I know that she's a brat and she's vain and can be very selfish and unfair and cruel to Arya, and you just get so frustrated because she keeps choosing Joffrey's side until the very end when he does the worst thing possible. But she just keeps choosing him over her own family, and it's just like, you just want to shake her and be like, you're a child, you're an idiot, you are trusting this boy, and you do not deserve this boy. This boy is a douchebag. He doesn't care about you. But she believes that he's Prince Charming and that she's gonna marry him, so she has to take his side, and, like, she's kind of essentially brainwashed, which you could make the argument for Joffrey, too. His mom is the reason he is a spoiled brat. And so you kind of it's understandable, her feelings, and even if it's frustrating. And also, if you're looking from her point of view, you can kind of understand, because she's been told she's got to wear pretty dresses, you cannot run around and get dirty, you have to always, like, play an instrument, you have to look beautiful all the time, you have to have good manners, and just act feminine and act like a lady. And while Arya gets to run around and play with swords and stuff, and yeah, she might get scolded, but she, like, doesn't, she's clearly Ned's favorite, And he just pats her on the head and is like, don't do it again. And like lets her get away with things. And that's because, of course, he understands Arya, and he understands he won't ever be able to control her and make her into a proper lady. And that maybe when she grows up, she'll be a little bit, more, when she gets more mature, she might be a little more ladylike in the future. But he's, just letting her be. But I can imagine that's frustrating for Sansa, because Sansa's doing everything she's told. And maybe that's not, I don't know if that's, she's doing everything she's supposed to do. How a lady's supposed to act. She's learning needlepoint. She's being a subordinate, accommodating wife, future wife. And it makes herself look pretty. And knows that, anticipates getting married and having babies and being the head of a household. And she has prepared herself, while Arya, like I said, doesn't listen and runs around like a wild girl, a little wild child. And I imagine it would be really frustrating because she's doing everything she's told and Arya isn't. So I can understand her frustration and anger at her sister. And like I said, so that combined with her naivety, I think her character there is, and I don't like how I feel bad for what she has to go through to learn the hard way, because she's not a bad person. She can be selfish and bratty, and, but she's not a bad person. At least I don't think so. But it is frustrating. And the most frustrating part, of course, is the scene when her and Joffrey are going on their little date, walking around. And if it was anyone else other than Joffrey, it would almost be romantic. But Joffrey is a horrible person. Every time she says, my sweet prince, or he's so handsome, I love Joffrey, and blah, blah, blah. It just makes me want to gag. The way she talks about him, and it's like, but that's also because I know the truth. I know the kind of person Joffrey really is. And they're talking, and meanwhile, Arya, John gave her a sword, needle, and, which is awesome. I would love to, I'd love to have a sword, a real sword, and then learn how to fence. That would be fun. But of course, girls could not do that. It's not ladylike. And I think that's, and so Micah, the butcher's boy, who she's become friends with, he's teaching her, and she's like, don't hold back. And because she genuinely wants to learn. And of course, Sansa and Joffrey see it, and Sansa is disgusted by it because it's unladylike. She knows it's not very ladylike to play with swords because women are not knights. And she and Joffrey sees it, and of course, I think it's a mixture of, oh, I can impress her, because I has to, because she's, he wants to, and also, he also probably thinks, oh, I can do what I want, and I don't like them, so, you know what, I'm gonna go in and, scare this little boy, this boy, and he's like, that is my fiance's little sister, how dare you, and you want to be a fighter? Well, why don't you fight me? And of course, this is the Prince Joffrey, so this Micah's not gonna fight this kid, even if he is better than him. And Arya is not afraid to, and she defends Micah, and Micah is forced to take off and run away, and because he's scared, and then her Nymeria, Arya's wolf, comes to defend her because she struggles against Joffrey. And because he's still a boy, he's still a little bit stronger than her. And the wolf bites him, which, okay, they're wild animals, they're beasts, I imagine, yeah, but it's hard for me to feel sorry for Joffrey because he's such a little prick that I want to punch in the face. And I cannot stand him. And he cries like a little baby. He's like, I'm telling Mom. And then the whole time Sansa's like, no, Arya, you're ruining everything. Stop, Arya. And, getting mad at her, which, like I said, on some level, I think you can kind of understand where Sansa's coming from. Even if you don't agree with it and think her actions are wrong, you can kind of understand because she's been, like I said, she's been led to believe all these things and sees Joffrey as her Prince Charming. And, we know the truth. And, I imagine she's caught up in her fantasy about him, so even when he's cold to her, when she's like, oh, are you okay, Joffrey? And he's like, get away from me. She still wants to please him. She knows she's gonna marry him. So she wants to please him. And is still caught up, she was on cloud 9 when she first was going on this date with him. And again, comparison to Bridgerton, this made me think of Anthony and Edwina. And like I said, I think Edwina, because in my opinion, Anthony put on quite a show for Edwina. So of course she's caught up in the fantasy and the idea of him, of the Anthony that he's presenting to her. I think it's the same thing. Joffrey's presenting this idea to Sansa that she's still caught up in. And like I said, it takes the worst thing that he could ever do, like, for her to realize the truth about him. And even then, she still kind of has to submit to him. Even though, because she doesn't know what the Lannisters will do to her. And they are her only form of protection. Her safe haven is living at King's Landing. It's the only place where she's safe, because she's out in the real world. She might not survive, and she might not get back to Winterfell on her own. She would need help. So right now, our best bet is to stay there and hope someone will help her, because she doesn't have the skills to help herself. And then like she, and then of course I understand when he goes to his mom and everything. And this is, like I said, this is the one time I felt bad for Robert Baratheon, because I think he did feel bad, and he didn't want to hurt these kids and Ned, so he tried to be like, reason with Cersei and be like, okay, look, let him punish his own kid, and we will punish ours. And it makes it worse because Joffrey and Arya have their own versions of events, and then Sansa, of course, backs up Joffrey because she's still very loyal to him and wants to please him. And then, just as Robert's like, okay, we've settled this, and I'm about to walk away, but then Cersei, it's the nail on the head, is like, no, I want retribution, because of course she loves her son, and the direwolf bit him. She's like, no, you need to kill this direwolf. These are wild beasts, and these are kids. The Stark kids love their. I mean, even Sansa loves her direwolf. They don't understand, and it breaks their hearts. And it's like, these are their pets. And I understand these are wild beasts, but they see these direwolves as their pets. They love them as if they were dogs. And, but you find out that Arya sent Nymeria away to protect her. And, oh my god, it's so sad, because she threw rocks at her. She has to throw rocks at Nymeria to make Nymeria run away. And it just, that is so hard. I mean, it's like me having to send, when I'm, like, if instead of, it's like having to send your pet dog away, because people think it's dangerous. And so it just was it's such a sad moment to know that she had to throw rocks and hurt Nymeria just so that Nymeria would run away. And this is the last time she sees Nymeria. Like, none of them, almost all of the Stark siblings lose their direwolves. They get them temporarily, and then and everything just really quickly has a domino effect, and they all lose. There's only some of them. Like, I think Jon is the only one who probably still has his direwolf. I mean, Nymeria might still be out. It's debatable if Nymeria is still out there somewhere and alive, but I like to believe she is. And then, like, so, of course, Cersei has to be like, okay, well, your direwolf is gone, but we have another one. And she, oh my god, I wanted to slap her. And she automatically was like, and Sansa realized that her direwolf would be killed. And I just hated Cersei for that. And then, of course, like I said, Sansa blames Arya because she doesn't want to blame Joffrey, and she's probably afraid to blame the queen. And it's like, girl, that was not your sister's fault, and you know it. But that is like that is such a hard scene. And it makes me angry that, as an animal lover, so I think that's probably why people really just hate Sansa scenes like that, moments like that. So we have Jon on the wall as well, and like, it's interesting that he kind of bonds with Tyrion because Tyrion decides he wants to go to the Wall, and he is the only one who is 100% honest with Jon about the Wall and tells him, guess what? The Wall is not a pleasant place, and it's where the rejects go, essentially, the people that aren't unwanted in the family. It's the only job they can get. But I did like the bond that Jon Snow forms with all those guys at Castle Black. I think that was really cool. Of course, the only person he still does not win over is Alliser Thorne, and I don't think he ever does. Alliser Thorne is just an ass. I don't care about his character at all. Jon was never gonna win him over. Let's face it. But I do like how, Tyrion kind of wins him over, which is funny. He wins Jon over, and then because Jon asked him to, he makes this saddle for Bran so he can ride again because he's been pushed off the tower. And I'm pretty sure that obviously Tyrion knows what actually happened, and he probably feels guilty and feels like he needs to do something, even if he's not the one who actually pushed the kid. And because he knows that, the one who did push him won't do anything to make up for it. But now in the show, I do believe he tries to apologize to Bran. And it was very interesting considering, like, the awkwardness of that. And Bran, Bran's life has definitely changed in big ways, and it actually makes him a little more willing to be like, okay, now at this point, it happened. It was meant to happen. Now, I don't know how it goes in the book, though. I don't know how different the book is as far as Bran's story goes, but it was kind of funny, actually, just like the awkwardness in the show of, Jaime trying to apologize to Bran about how he pushed the kid out the window and broke his legs. And just, he kind of, makes it look like kind of messes with Jaime a little. Bran kind of messes with Jaime a little bit, I think, makes him think he should be scared and that he isn't forgiven, but with the way Bran is at that point, his emotions aren't as strong anymore, Now, at least I don't know what direction the books are going to go with his character. I don't know how close they are to the show. But yeah, that was on the show. That part was kind of funny. And then we have, and so the Lannisters kids actually start to like Tyrion. But then things get ruined because when Catelyn goes to King's Landing, she finds out from Lord Baelish, Peter Baelish, which I'm like, girl, why do you trust him? You cannot trust him. I know you have a history with him. You were children. You feel bad because he liked Catelyn and he fought Bran Stark and he did not win. And Brandon Stark. And but I'm still like, why are you trusting this man? I mean, I trust him less than, Varys. They're all like, well, they don't like Varys, but they're tolerant of Peter Baelish. Although Ned obviously is not 100% okay with him because he knows him and Catelyn's history. And he tells them about the dagger that is used to try to attempt an assassination of Bran while he's still in his coma. From the fall, is like he's told that it was originally his dagger, and then he gave it to Tyrion because there was a bet that they made. So it clearly looks like Tyrion is the guilty party, and I feel so Tyrion. First of all, Tyrion is one of my favorite characters, and I feel bad for him because it's not his fault that he's a Lannister. He is. People need the Starks. I'm like, don't trust him because he's the Lannister name. I mean, even the direwolves are wary, but I do like how the direwolves are protective of their masters and mistresses, but they're also and they're very loyal to them. And I think they kind of reflect how they feel. Like, I always think that I feel like with a pet, sometimes with your your pets, they can reflect how their owners feel about someone. If their owner does not like someone, then they might. Now there are some that are just very welcoming and friendly to all, but I feel like your pets can reflect your feelings oftentimes. And so they, at one point when Tyrion shows up with the saddle, they growl at him. Because, of course, Robb Stark does not trust Tyrion either. And we're at the point where where Catelyn crosses paths. So she thinks he's guilty and that he had her son assassinated. So we're going to go to the part where he is put on trial at I cannot remember what that place is called, where her sister and Jon Arryn lived. I cannot remember what it's called. And they're like, and he's like, excuse me, and he's gonna be put on trial there. And I don't know, I think eventually Catelyn kind of changes her mind a little bit about him. He obviously gets away, or escapes, and that part is so hard to watch, because I know that Tyrion is not guilty, and I feel bad for him, and I'm like that person who will yell at the book or the screen and get angry when people are being unfair or something, or villainous to a character that is innocent. It's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. They're not the bad person. You don't know who the bad person is. You're trusting the wrong people. Yeah, so I definitely feel bad for Tyrion. It's not his fault that the rest of his family's assholes. But yeah, so I'm getting right to that part in the book. Probably gonna read a little bit after I'm done filming. But, first I'll upload the video, play a video on BookTube while I'm uploading, and then I will start reading some a little bit. But yeah, that's where I am in the book. And it's really fun kind of going back and rereading it, And what's nice is George R. R. Martin's writing style is really easy to follow along. It's just a long book, and I have trouble committing to longer books. So anyway, so that's what's going on with Game of Thrones. I am also reading, I picked up this again, Children of Time, by Adrian Chuskovsky. Sorry, I still cannot pronounce his name. And I still really can't tell you, we have met the spiders that are very advanced, that are, and the humans that are doing this experiment in space, and something goes wrong where one of them betrays the team, and the woman, the head doctor, female doctor, she's forced to go into stasis for a period of time, and for a long time, and we just met some other humans that are trying to, and they've received a beacon for help. I don't know if it's going to be Dr. Kern or not. But yeah, so far it's intriguing, and I'm curious about the spiders and what's going to happen with them. I guess each generation is going to become more and more intelligent as the story progresses. But science fiction in me is very hard, because the science can be very confusing. That's why I kind of like the more low, almost blurring lines between fantasy and sci-fi, like the Lunar Chronicles. I really like that because that was easy and a simple plot. I understood everything and I could follow along. I mean, there were occasionally, references to things that were more sciencey, but it was easy to get into, so that's what I like. But I'm continuing to try this kind of stuff as well. I liked Jurassic Park. That was kind of fun. The actual book, and timeline as well. But it's not hard to read. It's just, sometimes it can be confusing and hard to understand what's going on. But yeah, I'm not very far into it, obviously, so I'm at page 51. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's just hard for me to really explain what's going on. So I don't have a lot to say about that one. And then, so I went to BAM, and I picked out, I had trouble, because my birthday's coming up in a few days, so I'm trying to be very selective with what I picked. And also, Terry and I are gonna, come to, probably when she's here, we're gonna go to Books a Million. And we decided, since we're gonna see each other the month after our birthday month, why don't we just wait to give each other books then? That it would just be like getting each other our birthday gifts then. That way we can give it to each other in person. It was like, because normally, we don't see each other until July, because that's usually around the time the conventions happen. So we've decided not to go to the convention this year because, COVID is still on. It's still going around. So, we figure that by next year, hopefully everything will be safe. My mom, my mom will feel comfortable with me going to a big convention hall. But I mean, when you go on those, like, whether you're traveling from somewhere or just going to the convention, there's not that you can get sick. So combine that with already the risk of COVID, so it's better not to go and see what happens this year and how things turn out this year at the convention. So we're not going, but that's normally in July, so we feel like we can get each other gifts since our birthday's 2 months before. So, but since she's coming the first week of June, it's easier. Although I'm nervous about the time I'm asking off because, like I said, I'm already risking not being off, on the 3rd and the 4th. So, and she wants to come on the 2nd because it's cheaper. So we're going to see what happens. I mean, hopefully I will get the time off. But, anyway. So I decided to pick... I tried to pick something that was not on my Amazon wish list, but I wanted a certain copy of it. Because originally I had a mass market, and it's this one. It's Wicked. Now, my first copy of it was, the original published book, and then, it became a play. It got turned into a musical starring Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth. And I'm hoping they'll one day make a movie version of it. I mean, I've heard that they've cast someone to play Elphaba. And, so I've been meaning to rebuy the book. And I originally ended up rebuying it as a mass market. And I was like, you know what? I still am okay with reading mass markets. And I like the colored pages. But I just prefer these editions, these regular size paperbacks over mass market. So this is the musical tie-in edition cover. It's on the cover that's on the playbill and on the posters. And I decided to get it. I almost bought the original version, the copy with the original cover on it, but then I just decided to get this one. Because I do like the playbill poster. I used to have a poster, but I don't know where it is with this picture on it. And I don't know where I would put it, though, if I would hang it up. And obviously I can't put it there because I have that tree there. And I can't put it there. So maybe over there or something. I don't know. But if I wanted to hang it up. But, I'm very limited with my space. So we only have a few things up. But anyway, in case you don't know, this is basically the story of the Wicked Witch of the West. And, her origin story and how she had a friendship with Glinda in the beginning, but then that friendship fell apart. And they went their separate ways. And she was seen as a villain in, oh, I like this. This is from Kirkus Reviews. They say, save a place on the shelf between Alice and the Hobbit. That spot is well deserved. But, which, is connected to one of those children's classics. And I really like Regan McGuire. I like his take on these stories, because he does a lot of takes on the, his own versions of these stories. Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister is about the story Cinderella from the perspective of one of the stepsisters. Then Mirror Mirror is the story of Snow White set during the, set in Italy. Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, I cannot remember where that is set. But, and then Lost, I think, is in England. and a mixture of Jack the Ripper and A Christmas Carol. But I ended up not pursuing that one. I read what was going on in that. I read reviews of that one, and maybe I'll regret it. But you know, I read this one still up, and this one has 4. This one is actually a first book in a series. So there's Son of a Witch, A Lion Among Men, and Out of Oz. And I haven't read all the books in the series, so I've only read up to Lion Among Men. So I want to reread the series, and then read Out of Oz, the last one. Of course, I had to explain to my mom that, it wasn't like I just want to have the book. I just had, at first, was like thinking I wasn't going to read it again. Then I all of a sudden realized that I still actually really love this and I want to reread again. And I think she was worried that I just wanted to have the book. And that was not the case. But I also, one of the reasons why I wanted this one anyways, because it actually has pictures from the show in here. Like you have, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so let me go where the pictures start. This is a picture of Emerald City. It's a great show, by the way, if you're into musical theater. Like, I know not everybody likes musical theater, but, this is Elphaba and Galinda, and Madame Morrible, the headmistress of the school they attend when they're teenagers. Think like Hogwarts. And then you have when they become friends, sort of, and I think this is probably around the time when they do the song Popular. And then you have, this is Fiyero, who plays an interesting role in Galinda and Elphaba's life. And then this is one of the teachers, one of Elphaba's teachers she forms a mentor-mentee relationship with. And they do kind of like a political, like, or prejudice kind of thing where, they have animals that are regular animals with lowercase, and then animals with capital letters, they are animals that are like, they function like humans, but they have they still are like animals. And that becomes a big issue, a big conflict in the story. And, and then, this is when they go to Oz, this top picture, when they go to Oz for the first time and meet the wizard. And I think that's the opening song for Act 2. And then you have, this is her sister, who becomes the Wicked Witch of the East. And I think, I want to say that might be their father. And this is where the slippers come in, which, by the way, they are not ruby like they are in the movie. That's one of the factoids I learned, that actually in the original book, the slippers are silver, but ruby would show better in Technicolor, so they made them red instead of silver. So I thought that was kind of a cool little. And this is the wizard, played by Joel Grey. He is Jennifer Grey's dad. And he was also in some Buffy episodes. He was called a demon called Doc on Buffy in season 5. And I think this is when they're reunited, when Galinda and Elphaba are reunited after. In fact, I think this is like around the time when they're in Munchkin Land, and possibly close to when Dorothy arrives. And then we have, this is of course the infamous Defying Gravity moment, which I loved that song, Defying Gravity. I have that one on my iPod. That's the first song I have in the on my iPod, because And this is, I believe, one of the flying monkeys. And the reunion between Glinda and okay, and this is, I think, not for good, but I think this is the opening number for, this might be the opening number for Act 2. I don't know when when they meet the wizard and she leaves starts. Another Defying Gravity moment. I love Defying Gravity. It's my favorite song in the whole production. And then this is love duet between Fiyero and Elphaba. So there's a bit of a love triangle. Now I think it's a little different in the book, the romance. I don't think it's as strong as in the play, as the stage show. But yeah, that's why I ended up getting that one and not the original, because this one has the pictures from the original stage show of the original recorded cast. So I love this. I want to read this. And of course, as I'm looking at it now, I want to read it like now. I want to reread it at this moment. But like I said, I don't want to make the same mistake and, put down a Game of Thrones and not come back to it for a long time. So yeah, so I'm just updating you guys on what's going on. Like I said, I don't have a TBR. I do not have a TBR for May. I don't know if I'm going to commit to, there's books I definitely need to get to, I feel like. But then there's all these other books, and then there's all these other books, and there's new books that I want, or now that I recently got, that I want to get to. So it's very hard for me to set a TBR. I've been struggling with that these last few years. So anyway, I hope you are having a good, continue to have a good May month, and I hope you're doing well and healthy, enjoying your reading. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't and you like the video, and click the bell icon below if you want to be notified when I post new videos. And I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.